I am Grand Admiral Zorlax of the 7th Armada, Supreme Commander of the Galactic Hegemony's expansion forces, Conqueror of the Andromeda Spiral, and most importantly the unfortunate officer assigned to the humiliating Earth campaign. Before I continue with this mandatory post-mission report, let me establish my credentials. I have personally overseen 342 planetary conquests. My tactics are studied at the Imperial War Academy. My name is whispered in terrified tones across 17 galaxies. The Emperor himself awarded me the Crimson Star of Dominance after I subjugated the warrior race of Proxima Centauri in mere days. Their so-called unbreakable defense systems crumbled under my strategic brilliance. For those unfamiliar with our glorious hegemony, though I cannot imagine who that might be, unless you've been living under an asteroid for the past 10 millennia, we have ruled the known universe with an armored fist since before your ancestors figured out how to make fire. 10,000 years of uninterrupted conquest. 10,000 years without a single defeat. Our history is written in the stars themselves, each one marking another civilization brought to its knees before our technological superiority. Our process is elegantly efficient. We identify, we arrive, we conquer. Simple, effective. Until Earth, located in an unremarkable solar system on the outer edge of a spiral arm of what primitives call the Milky Way. Humans weren't even supposed to be a footnote in our glorious history. The initial intelligence report compiled by Senior Scout Belnar, who has since been reassigned to waste management on Sulfur Moon Delta, described them as, and I quote, harmless bipeds with minimal threat potential, technologically immature, military capability negligible, recommended approach, standard intimidation protocol will suffice. Standard intimidation protocol. Hey! If I ever meet Belnar in person, I will personally remove his sensory tentacles. The report further noted that humans had not yet achieved unified planetary government, possessed only rudimentary space travel capabilities, and spent most of their resources fighting among themselves over arbitrary territorial divisions. Their weapons, nuclear warheads, and ballistic missiles wouldn't even scratch the paint on our smallest scout ships. We expected the usual response to first contact, panic, followed by attempted resistance, followed by surrender negotiations. Every species follows this pattern. It's practically a universal constant. Instead, they laughed. Yes, that bizarre facial spasm where they bare their teeth and emit rhythmic vocalizations. Apparently, it's called laughter, and as we would soon discover to our eternal regret, it is humanity's most potent weapon. A weapon for which we had no defense. A weapon that would bring the mighty galactic hegemony to its knees for the first time in 10,000 years. This is the story of how I, Grand Admiral Zorlax, lost a war to a species that couldn't stop giggling. Our arrival was nothing short of spectacular. The hegemony believes first impressions matter, so we deployed the full intimidation protocol 7 Alpha. My flagship, the Inevitable Doom, led a formation of 500 warships that blotted out Earth's sun as we entered orbit. The ships arranged themselves in our traditional Fangs of Death pattern, a formation that has caused several species to surrender before a single shot was fired. Begin the light show, I commanded from my throne on the bridge. My second-in-command, Commander Plex, activated our atmospheric display systems. Massive holographic projections of our ships destroying planets filled Earth's skies. We added the screams of our previous conquests as audio enhancement. A particularly nice touch, in my professional opinion. Sending the standard ultimatum now, Grand Admiral reported Communications Officer Krill, her tentacles dancing across the transmission console. All Earth languages simultaneously. Adding the traditional Doom Choir background music. The ultimatum was the same one we'd used for millennia: surrender or be annihilated. Simple, direct, effective. We included footage of our previous conquests, emphasizing species that had resisted. Nothing says don't try it like watching a planet get turned into an asteroid belt. We waited for the panic, for emergency broadcasts, here for desperate pleas from government leaders. Instead, our communication channels exploded with images, crude drawings of our ships with googly eyes. Our intimidating Doom Choir audio track remixed with something humans called a beat drop. Someone had already created a dance challenge based on the movement of our warning lasers. Grand Admiral Krill's voice trembled. I'm receiving thousands of messages, but they don't appear to be surrender communications. They're sending us pictures? With text on them? I stormed over to the display. The main screen filled with an image of my own holographic projection, but someone had added what appeared to be a ridiculously small hat, and the text came to steal Earth. You can't even steal a decent outfit. What is happening? I demanded. Where is the panic? The terror? The groveling? Unknown, sir, Commander Plex looked genuinely bewildered. Perhaps our translators are malfunctioning. I ordered an immediate escalation. We destroyed one of their uninhabited moons. The entire moon. The debris created a spectacular ring around their planet. Surely this would convey our seriousness. The response. They named the ring Zorlax's necklace and began selling T-shirts. Sir, Plex approached cautiously. The humans are requesting a direct diplomatic meeting. They've appointed someone called Ambassador Jasmine Taylor as their representative. Believing we could intimidate at least one human up close, I agreed to the meeting. Ambassador Taylor arrived on our ship wearing what I later learned was called a poker face, though it failed spectacularly when I described the fate awaiting resistant species. I'm sorry, she said, covering her mouth. It's just then she snorted, right in the middle of my conquest speech. Do you find planetary annihilation amusing, Ambassador Taylor? I asked, my voice dropping to its most menacing register. No, she composed herself momentarily. It's just those holograms? With the planets exploding? They look exactly like the special effects from this terrible movie called Space Conflict 3000. It was so bad it became a cult classic. She pulled out a communication device and showed me the comparison someone had already made. See? Even the screams are the same. My entire bridge crew stared in stunned silence as Ambassador Taylor fought to control herself. So anyway, she finally managed, wiping her eyes. And about those surrender terms. Counteroffer, we provide you with our complete entertainment package, including something called stand-up comedy, and you guys just go away? Trust me, you're going to love it. I was speechless. In 10,000 years of conquest, no species had ever responded with whatever this was. My psychological warfare experts were in crisis. 3 had already requested transfers. When I finally found my voice, I could only ask one question. What is stand-up comedy? And that, as it turned out, was my first mistake. We need to understand this laughter phenomenon immediately, I declared during our emergency war council. It's clearly some form of psychological defense mechanism, perhaps even a weapon. And so began the most frustrating scientific endeavor in hegemony history. I assigned Chief Xenobiologist Daxnar to the case. With 7 cranial lobes and 27 academic distinctions, Daxnar was our most brilliant mind. He had decoded the neural patterns of the telepathic cloud beings of Nebula 6 in mere days. Surely human humor would present no challenge. 3 days later, Daxnar's first report arrived on my desk. Preliminary findings on human humor inconclusive, he wrote. Subjects respond with laughter to scenarios involving physical pain, misunderstandings, exaggerations, unexpected outcomes, and something called dad jokes which appear deliberately designed to provoke groans rather than laughter. None of these categories follow logical patterns. Working theory. Humans may be collectively insane. I ordered Daxnar to dig deeper. Meanwhile, we continued our standard intimidation tactics. We positioned our planet killer weapon in plain view. We vaporized an uninhabited island as a demonstration. We intercepted their television broadcasts to deliver menacing messages. Each action backfired more spectacularly than the last. Our planet killer weapon, which resembles a large sphere with a concave dish, prompted humans to create endless comparisons to something called a Death Star. They began referring to me as Darth Zorlax and Commander Plex as Grand Moff Plexin. I still don't understand the reference, but my crew found it unnerving how quickly these names were adopted. The vaporized island? They turned it into a tourist attraction. Come see the hegemony hole. Their advertisements proclaimed, gift shop and photo opportunities available. And our broadcast interruptions became the subject of something called reaction videos. Humans would record themselves watching our threats, making exaggerated expressions of mock fear before dissolving into laughter. Daxnar's second report was even more disturbing. Grand Admiral, I've discovered something called internet memes. Humans create and share these modified images at astonishing speeds. Our intimidation tactics aren't just failing, they're providing raw material for this phenomenon. Every threatening message we send generates thousands of these memes. I've attached examples for your review. The examples made my exoskeleton crawl. There I was, the feared Grand Admiral Zorlax, portrayed with ridiculously small appendages, saying I came to conquer worlds but can't conquer my feelings. Another showed our fearsome battlecruisers captioned, when you're trying to look tough but your mom dressed you. The level of disrespect was unprecedented. More concerning was how quickly humans produced these images. Within minutes of any action we took, thousands of visual responses circulated globally. Their communication networks buzzed with something they called alien invasion hot takes. Apparently, being invaded was the most entertaining thing to happen to their species. Sir, Daxnar's third report began, I am formally requesting reassignment. After studying 10,000 examples of human humor, I experienced an involuntary facial spasm and emitted a sound similar to their laughter. I fear prolonged exposure may be affecting my neurological functions. His request was denied. We needed answers. My own paranoia grew daily. What if this laughter wasn't just a bizarre response? What if it was a sophisticated defense mechanism? A mimetic virus designed to confuse invading forces? The timing was suspicious. Whenever we performed our most intimidating acts, they responded with increased laughter. During a private moment of weakness, I confided in Commander Plex. What if we're missing something fundamental? 10,000 years of conquest, and we've never encountered a species that found invasion funny. Plex's eye stalks quivered anxiously. Perhaps, sir, we should consider the possibility that humans have developed an immunity to fear through some evolutionary quirk. Or perhaps, I whispered, not wanting to be overheard, this humor is their secret weapon, and we're already being infected. That night, I found myself staring at one of their memes of me with the caption, when the coffee machine is broken, but you still have a galaxy to conquer. For a brief, horrifying moment, I almost understood why it was funny. The Emergency Hegemony Council meeting was called to order aboard the command ship. Fleet commanders from across the Armada gathered in our holographic chamber, their expressions ranging from confused to outright terrified. Never in our history had a conquest stalled so spectacularly. The humans must be deploying some form of psychological warfare, declared Admiral Vrex of the Third Fleet, pounding his appendage on the table. Our troops report feelings of amusement. This cannot be natural. Perhaps we should simply glass the planet and be done with it, suggested Commander Zilth, always the trigger-happy one. Whatever this humor is, it can't survive planetary incineration. And risk contaminating our forces with unknown mimetic weapons? Countered Fleet Tactician Marbax. We don't understand what we're dealing with yet. That's when Security Director Pelnar, newly arrived from Hegemony Central Command, stepped forward. With his crimson exoskeleton and enhanced cybernetic eye implants, Pelnar cut an imposing figure. My specialized security forces have analyzed the situation, he announced grimly. This laughter is clearly a sophisticated mind control technique. The humans have weaponized cognitive disruption. They make you find something funny, then while you're distracted, they reprogram your neural pathways. A horrified murmur swept through the council chamber. Do you have evidence of this? I asked skeptically. Pelnar's eye implants glowed ominously. 3 of my advanced security units studied human comedy shows for 12 hours. Afterward, they began making jokes. He whispered the last word as though it were a terminal diagnosis. One even altered his official uniform to include something called a whoopee cushion. They are compromised. Then we must obtain human test subjects, declared Pelnar. I will lead the capture mission myself. We will extract their secrets through traditional hegemony techniques. Despite my reservations, the Council approved Pelnar's plan. That night, his elite capture team descended on a human gathering, something called a comedy club, and attempted to abduct several humans. The operation was a catastrophe of epic proportions. First, the humans initially thought the abduction was part of the show. They applauded as Pelnar's troops crashed through the ceiling. Second, someone was live streaming the entire event. Third, Pelnar's dramatic speech about human subjugation was interrupted by a heckler who said his threats needed better timing and suggested he work on his delivery. By morning, the failed abduction had become what humans called viral. They named it When Aliens Attack Comedians. A soundtrack was added. Dance remixes followed. One human news source called it the greatest comedy event since the invention of laughter. Worst of all, the security team returned changed. One kept repeating something called a knock-knock joke. Another had decorated his fearsome battle armor with something called googly eyes. Panic spread through our ranks like a plague. Reports flooded in from across the fleet. Engineering crew found laughing at duty stations. The tactical officer added funny hats to battle simulation enemies. 3 gunners requested permission to lighten up their uniforms. I ordered immediate quarantine for all affected personnel, but it was spreading too quickly. Soldiers previously renowned for their merciless efficiency were now viewing human broadcasts voluntarily. Some had started collections of memes. Others attempted to create their own jokes. In desperation, I placed a direct call to Hegemony High Command, a measure only taken in the direst circumstances. Supreme Overlord, I began, struggling to maintain my composure. The Earth situation has evolved. We face an unprecedented threat. Request immediate reinforcements and containment specialists. The Supreme Overlord's many eyes narrowed on the holographic display. Explain. Explain. The humans have developed a cognitive weapon called humor. It causes involuntary facial spasms, strange vocalizations, and most alarmingly a desire to experience more of the sensation. It's spreading among our troops. There was a long, terrible silence. Have you been exposed, Grand Admiral Zorlax? The Supreme Overlord finally asked. I hesitated fractionally too long. You're quarantined, declared the Supreme Overlord. No ships in or out of the Earth system until we understand this threat. If the contamination cannot be contained, the implication was clear. The hegemony would sacrifice our entire armada rather than risk this strange human weapon spreading further. As the communication ended, Commander Plex approached me hesitantly. Sir, Ambassador Taylor is requesting another meeting. She says she has a stand-up routine prepared specifically for you. May the void help us all. With our fleet quarantined and cases of humor contamination rising hourly, I reluctantly agreed to a formal diplomatic exchange. The humans, sensing our discomfort, graciously offered to host the meeting in a neutral location, a conference room at their United Nations building, rather than at a comedy club as originally suggested. The human delegation arrived led not by Jasmine Taylor, but by a distinguished-looking male human named Ambassador Marcus Wong. He brought a team of what he called humor experts, including most alarmingly something called a professional comedian. I brought xenobiologist Dax Nar, Commander Plex, and a squad of guards who had tested negative for humor exposure. Welcome, Grand Admiral Zorlax, Ambassador Wong began with irritating pleasantness. We believe there's been a fundamental misunderstanding between our species. We don't view your invasion as a threat because, frankly, we've been imagining alien invasions in our entertainment for centuries. You've inadvertently stepped into a cultural trope. A what? I demanded. A familiar scenario from our fiction, Wong explained patiently. Humans have a long history of using humor as a coping mechanism for fear. When something scares us, we often make jokes about it. It helps us process the emotion. So you admit your humor is a defense mechanism? I exclaimed triumphantly. The humans exchanged glances. Not exactly, said Wong. Perhaps it would help if we explained comedy. Comedy is the art of creating laughter through the unexpected juxtaposition of ideas, the release of tension, or the recognition of shared experiences. For the next hour, they attempted to explain jokes, sarcasm, and memes. My crew and I stared in bewilderment. None of it made logical sense. Let me try a simple joke, offered the professional comedian. Why did the Grand Admiral cross the galaxy? To get to the other side. My delegation stared blankly. Perhaps more visual humor? Suggested Ambassador Wong. He showed us something called a meme featuring a small feline wearing an oversized battle helmet with the caption "I can has planet." Again, nothing. The humans grew increasingly frustrated. Our species' minds seemed fundamentally incompatible on this issue. Then something unexpected happened. Daxnar, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly spoke. Your explanation reminds me of the gelatinous beings of Rigel 7. We thought they were attacking when they vibrated rapidly, but it was actually their method of waste expulsion. There was a moment of silence. Then the human delegation burst into uncontrolled laughter. What? Demanded Daxnar, genuinely confused. What did I say? You just made a joke, gasped Ambassador Wong between laughs, unintentionally comparing laughter to farting. To my horror, Commander Plex's face suddenly contorted. A strange sound escaped his breathing apparatus, a sort of rhythmic exhalation. His eyes crinkled at the edges. Commander, I barked. Control yourself. Too late. Plex was laughing, right there in front of everyone. Soon 3 of our guards joined in, their fearsome battle masks unable to hide their shaking shoulders. Don't you see? Ambassador Wong said kindly. Humor isn't a weapon. It's a shared experience, a bridge between minds. Your people are capable of it too, you've just never cultivated it. I watched in mounting horror as my crew, my loyal, disciplined, fearsome warriors bonded with the humans over this ridiculous concept. They were trying to explain our own cultural misunderstandings now, creating what the humans called cross-cultural humor. It's like when Zorgons think mind melding is intimate, but for Blackzoids it's just saying hello. Offered one of my guards, prompting another round of laughter. Exactly, exclaimed the human comedian. Cultural miscommunication is comedy gold. That's when the terrible truth hit me. Laughter wasn't just a human defense mechanism. It was contagious. And my crew, the pride of the hegemony, had been infected. The Emergency Directive 7729B. From Supreme Overlord Kasich to all hegemony forces in Sol's system. Subject: immediate quarantine and withdrawal. The Sol system is hereby designated a Class X contamination zone. All vessels are ordered to maintain position at maximum safe distance from the planet designated Earth. No further communication with the indigenous species is authorized. Decontamination protocols are being dispatched. Any personnel displaying symptoms of humor infection, including but not limited to spontaneous facial contortions, rhythmic vocalization patterns, or attempts to create jokes are to be isolated immediately. The Supreme Council has determined this contagion represents an existential threat to hegemony, discipline, and order. A full retreat from Earth space will commence upon arrival of containment specialists. This directive supersedes all previous orders. Long live the hegemony. Final log entry: Grand Admiral Zorlax. Imperial date: 7729.42. I, Grand Admiral Zorlax, hereby submit this formal acknowledgement of defeat. After careful consideration and extensive observation, I can reach no other conclusion than the humans have successfully repelled our invasion force not through superior technology or military might, but through a cognitive defensive mechanism so powerful that it has infected our own troops. The retreat order from High Command arrived this morning. Officially, we are withdrawing to reassess strategic priorities. Unofficially, the hegemony is terrified of what might happen if the human concept of humor spreads throughout our empire. What would become of our feared military if troops began laughing during battle speeches? How could we maintain our oppressive regimes if citizens started making jokes about their overlords? The entire foundation of our 10,000-year conquest could crumble under the weight of something as seemingly insignificant as laughter. Before our departure, we negotiated a treaty with the humans. The terms were unusual, to say the least. They agreed to restrict their mean warfare and not actively spread their humor to other hegemony-controlled worlds. In exchange, we established limited trade rights and, more importantly, guaranteed Earth's independence. Ambassador Wong seemed almost disappointed that we were leaving. "We were just starting to make progress," he said. "Your people were beginning to understand puns." The containment team has finished constructing a specialized quarantine facility aboard my flagship for affected crew members. Daxnar, Plex, and 47 others are currently undergoing humor deprogramming. The procedure has mixed results. Some appear to be recovering, others still break into spontaneous laughter when shown images of our supreme overlord. As for myself, I have been cleared of contamination. The official report states that I maintained immunity to the human cognitive weapon throughout the campaign. This is, of course, a lie. Private Addendum, Encryption Level Omega. I've secured this portion of the log with my personal encryption codes. Even High Command cannot access it. The truth is, I understand humor now. I get the jokes. Last night, alone in my quarters, I reviewed footage of the human entertainment program Galaxy Quest and found myself laughing. The portrayal of self-important space commanders hit uncomfortably close to home. Perhaps our entire civilization has been missing something fundamental. 10,000 years of conquest, and we never stopped to consider the value of laughter. We've prided ourselves on our technological superiority while remaining emotionally stunted. I've secretly downloaded the complete human entertainment package provided by Ambassador Wong. Their comedies, their memes, their stand-up routines, all of it. I tell myself it's for research purposes, but the truth is I enjoy it. Tonight, when the ship is quiet and my personal quarters are secure, I will watch something called Spaceballs. Ambassador Wong specifically recommended it, with a knowing smile I now recognize as mischievous. The hegemony will record Earth as a temporary setback in our glorious history. They will quarantine this system and forbid all mention of human humor. But I know the truth. We didn't just lose a battle, we encountered something that made us question whether we've been fighting the wrong war all along. This is Grand Admiral Zorlax signing off. Computer end log. Computer, delete private addendum. Computer, belay that order. Computer, save complete log to personal archives. Computer, play Monty Python and the Holy Grail.